So Fiona, what is MPGe then? And that's, yeah, it's kind of boring, right? The first thing I want to say on this video is to apologize to our subscribers for being a day late on this video release. Life happens, and for the last week and a half, it's really been happening, and hard to keep up with stuff. We're having to resort to filming the videos while we are doing our errands of buying groceries and things like that. But tomorrow, or later today, as you're watching this video, Rachel and I are going to be going to the North Texas Auto Show, and we're going to be comparing the efficiency of the electric vehicles that are there, but the only information that's going to be readily available to us is the MPGe rating that's on their window sticker, and that made me do some digging into how to translate that into miles per kilowatt hour. And that gave me the motivation to do this particular video now. I know I still need to do the video reviewing this car after a year. I'm going to postpone that because I think this is good information for you.
So, Luke, how do we measure the efficiency of an electric vehicle?
Well, the way that we measure it, Rachel and I measure it, is in terms of miles per kilowatt hour. The reason for that is we got used to it. The first two EVs that we owned were the Fiat 500 and the Chevy Bolt, both of which gave us the display of its efficiency in terms of miles per kilowatt hour. Made perfect sense to me because the kilowatt hour is the unit of energy that we purchase from our electricity provider or from the public charger. They charge us by the kilowatt hour. So that way we can really track our expenses, and it makes sense to us that way. For some reason, the engineers at Tesla and Harley Davidson, our other two EVs, put it in terms of watt hours per mile. I can't buy a mile. We measure internal combustion engine cars in miles per gallon. You buy a gallon of gas. The gallon of gas cost is what the gas station advertises on its sign out front. You know how much that is, but how much is a mile? And watt hours per mile is just going to tell you efficiency, but not really going to help you out with costs because of that. So I always have to convert watt hours per mile into miles per kilowatt hour. But that's what we do. But that's electric vehicle owner mindset. Not everybody is there.
Right. So what you discovered is that when you go to purchase an EV, they don't put miles per kilowatt hour on the window sticker.
Nor do they put watt hours per mile there.
What do they put on the window sticker?
They put on the window sticker something called miles per gallon equivalent, or MPGe. And that is a different number that I never bothered paying attention to because when I wanted an electric vehicle, my first thought was the same as everybody else's first thought. What's the range? Mm-hmm. Right? And a lot of people who have never owned an EV, or they see us and they find out our car is electric, like, well, they know this one is, but they don't always know that your Fiat is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they love to ask, they all ask, what's the range and how long does it take to charge?
Right.
And I think the reason why this is the thing that people ask is because, I mean, no one asked that for a gas-powered vehicle, right?
I spent 30 years shopping for gasoline-powered cars, and I never asked, how far does it go on a tank of gas? I wanted to know how far it went on a gallon of gas.
Yeah, but the reason that people ask that about electric vehicles is because the older designs, when they were new, range was an issue. And charging speed was an issue. It was a lot less efficient than it is now. There was a lot less range, and so people got the idea that that is something you need to be worried about. But the technology is so much better now, it's really not an issue.
Yeah, the days of drive it till it's empty and plug it in and it takes a day and a half to fill up, well, that's
way over.
That's true if you're going off of a 110 house plug.
I mean, if you're driving my 2018 Fiat, kind of, but
well, not even that. It'll only take like 12 hours on a 110 house plug.
Yeah, you plug it into your just outlet.
Yeah, and so that's where that comes from, and I understand it. Just people don't know that that's not how these things charge anymore. But there are also people out there that know perfectly well how these things charge, and the idea of a 15-minute stop to charge your car for some miles is too much time to stop. And I get that. I understand that. They're not for everybody. Anyway, we digress. So, miles, what were we talking about?
We were talking about the way you measure efficiency, right? So we don't need to be worried so much about range. We don't need to be worried about charging speeds, but we do care how much it costs us to drive a mile, right?
Which is why we prefer to use miles per kilowatt hour.
Right.
But
when you buy a car,
you don't get that on the window sticker. What
right.
you get is MPGe. And here's where MPGe came from. Because if you think miles per kilowatt hour would have been too confusing, the electric vehicles in the 2000 aughts, like when the Tesla Roadster came out, and they would have the efficiency on the window sticker reading the number of kilowatt hours per 100 miles.
That's weird.
And that would really make people go, what? And people were getting confused by it. And so the EPA and NHTSA, it's easier for me to say National Highway Traffic Safety Administration or NHTSA than just to say the letter, sorry. They did focus groups on how should we track the efficiency of electric vehicles and hybrids. And they offered them number of kilowatt hours per 100 miles, miles per kilowatt hour, and this thing called miles per gallon equivalent, which is how many miles can you get on the equivalent electricity of a gallon of gas.
Yeah, and that sort of makes sense, because if the only experience you have is with gas-powered vehicles, that's how you're used to thinking. And if you want to compare your gas-powered vehicle or one that you're considering buying to a comparable EV, you want to find out if it's more efficient. The answer is yes, it's always more efficient, but they didn't know that at the time.
The right? reason that it is more efficient is that a lot of the energy of gasoline comes from lighting it on fire.
Yeah.
That's what the combustion and internal combustion engine means, is there's fire. And a lot of the energy is lost to heat and heat loss. And so it's not as efficient as it would be without the heat loss. An battery electric vehicle is not 100% efficient, but it is way more efficient than a gasoline or diesel fuel powered vehicle because it doesn't have to worry about the heat loss. We'll get to that in a sec. So here's the math on how much electricity is the equivalent of a gallon of gas. The EPA uses the formula that it is 33.7 kilowatt hours. That's the energy of a gallon of gas, or 115,000 British thermal units if you want to look at BTUs. I don't know where that number came from, but it seems to be universally accepted because every time I searched it, the same exact numbers came up. But those are the numbers that the EPA used. 33.7 kilowatt hours equals a gallon of gas. So if you look at the MPGe rating on the window sticker of an electric vehicle, and you divide that by 33.7, that will give you a rough idea of the miles per kilowatt hour. For example, this car is a 2022 Tesla Model 3. We did not buy it new. We bought it from Hertz. We did not buy it from Tesla. And so we don't have the window sticker. The window sticker had an MPGe range of 126 miles per gallon equivalent on the highway and 138 miles per gallon equivalent in the city. If I just take that 138 number and I divide it by 33.7, then what I get is 4.09 miles per kilowatt hour. That's in city, where the car is going to be the most efficient. This car, since we've owned it, has had an efficiency average of 237 watt hours per mile, according to the onboard computer in the car. Now, to convert watt hours per mile into miles per kilowatt hour, you take your watt hours per mile and use it as your divisor, and 1,000 is your dividend. So take 1,000, because there's 1,000 watt hours in a kilowatt hour. That's what the kilo means. And 1,000 divided by 237 gives me 4.22 miles per kilowatt hour. So my real world experience, I'm getting better efficiency on this car than what the EPA said the best efficiency would be. So it's not, in my experience, 100% accurate. With this car, I beat it by a little over 1/10 of a mile per kilowatt hour. It's the same with the Bolt. I beat it by a little better than 1/10 of a mile per kilowatt hour, but it's close enough.
Yeah, and this car, it's worth noting that the Tesla Model 3 has a very high efficiency rating compared to other EVs. The Bolt is very similar, but it doesn't have as many amenities, and it is more affected by the climate control. Same with the Fiat. It's a much smaller car, but it still gets about the same fuel efficiency as the Tesla. The Tesla is really good at this, so most EVs are not going to quite get that same efficiency.
Most of them aren't going to be around 138 MPG. They're going to be low 100s, like 109, 110. Like the trucks are around 88 or something like that. But that's how you can tell by looking at the window sticker of the car on the dealer lot, or you pull up the listing and it shows the MPGe rating. You'll get an idea of what the efficiency is. They're going to put the range out there because people are still very concerned about the range of the car. But if you want to know how much it's going to cost you to fuel it, you need to know your miles per kilowatt hour. So that's the formula that you use.
I want to go back to something you said earlier. You talked about how at one point they thought it was a good idea to talk about how many kilowatt hours it took to go 100 miles. Where did that come from, and why did they care about 100 miles?
In the late 2000s, there was an Automotive X Prize to develop a car that could achieve 100 miles per gallon. And so that kind of became the EPA's magic number. And we want to get 100 miles per gallon, and battery electric vehicles can far outdo that. But so this is an interesting thing that I want to bring up too. 33.7 kilowatt hours is the equivalent of a gallon of gas.
Okay.
This car, 258 miles of range, 272 when it was new, and now 256 miles of range when it's at 100%. 57 kilowatt hour battery. That means this car has a gas tank that's less than 2 gallons.
That's unbelievable. That's crazy. I think our last sedan, or our Subaru Crosstrek, had about a 30-gallon tank.
No, it was more like 15.
Oh, was it? Okay.
My truck was 30.
The truck was 30.
Yeah.
But still, like, think about that. Less than 2 gallons.
Less than 2 gallons. And oh, wait. Your Fiat, let's go even more to an extreme, has 21 kilowatt hours of usable power in the battery pack. That's not even a gallon of gas.
That's crazy.
That's just a little over a half a gallon of gas. That's less than half the fuel capacity of our lawnmower, our riding lawnmower. It's less than a little over a half a gallon of gas maximum is what your car has.
That's crazy.
So the next time you say 87 miles on a good day, cut it some slack.
It's 87 miles on a gallon of gas. That's pretty darn good,
so,
right?
On less than a gallon.
Less than a gallon.
2/3 of a gallon.
Yeah, it's 0 gas, but it's the equivalent of less than a gallon.
Yeah, so, and again, the reason for that difference is huge in terms of efficiency, and that's because of the heat loss from lighting the gasoline on fire.
Right, and for those of you who are thinking, yeah, but that electricity has to come from somewhere, somebody's lighting something on fire. In our case, it doesn't, because we get ours from our solar panels. So yes, if you are buying your electricity from some place that uses
coal fire
gas, or fossil
natural
fuels
gas
of some kind, then yes, that something got lit on fire, but that is not true for all electricity.
But
you can't generate electricity without lighting things on fire.
The point is the efficiency of how that energy is delivered in propelling the car down the road.
Yeah, it's still way more efficient. Even if you're using like a coal-powered plant to generate your electricity, and it has to be, piped to you through wires, and there's a little efficiency loss there, and then you put it in your car, it's still going to be more efficient and cheaper than if you just put the gas directly in your gas-powered vehicle.
Exactly. So anyway, when we go to the auto show for us tomorrow, for you watching the video today, and that video will be out next week, we're going to be looking for all of the electric vehicles that are at the North Texas Auto Show, and we are going to be finding which one of them is the most efficient in terms of miles per kilowatt hour. And since they're not going to have that on the window sticker, we're going to have to do the conversion from MPGe to miles per kilowatt hour. And you see how long it took me to explain this. I didn't want that to take up that much of the auto show video, so that's why this is a separate video. Hopefully you found this video informative. I informed myself a lot. I understand MPGe now.
This is for you math wonks. You're welcome. We know you love this.
I got excited when I looked it up. I'm sorry.
It's cool.
But subscribe. Make sure that you don't miss that auto show video. And the next video after that will be the 1 year review on this rescued rental car from Hertz. I've got some questions in the YouTube community that have come up that we'll address. And if you've got some specific questions you want answered about our experience of buying a used Tesla from Hertz and 1 year of owning it, put it down in the comments of this video and we'll address it there as well. Thanks for watching, guys.
Bye.